Hello and welcome to Men in Progress. This is a podcast of the United Methodist Men of Trietsch. My name is Dave Casey, and I'm a former president of the United Methodist Men at Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church in Flower Mound, Texas. I'm one of a bunch of guys that we are just trying to live out our faith, trying to be better husbands, fathers, leaders, and we're really trying to grow our relationship with Jesus Christ. This really starts with kind of banding together and talking about things that matter to us, and that's what we're going to be doing in this podcast. In this and future episodes, we're going to wade into some, probably some light topics and then some pretty heavy stuff as well, and probably some raw conversations will come up. Is what it means to be a Christian man, living up to Christ's example every day. So tonight, today, we're diving into a particularly sensitive topic that speaks both to the hearts of Christian men and our relevance to the world as corporate leaders. A lot of us are in business or we're in business, and we're also husbands, fathers. And our question today is, do Christian values really matter anymore? So to help answer that question, I'm being joined by three members of the United Methodist Men of Trietsch that I think will have some interesting perspectives. So Matt Heading, Jerry Jones, and Barrett Plyler. So welcome, guys, to the Men in Progress podcast.
Hi, Dave. Good to be here.
Hey.
Thank you, Dave.
Good to see you guys. So this will be interesting because I don't know if you guys have thought this through very much, but we all have, I think, established over the years our what we consider being our Christian values. And so I'm going to start with Matt. Do you really think Christian values matter anymore?
Absolutely. I really do. I think that that there are a lot of ways that we can show these values outside of the four walls of this church, in the things that we do and how we act, and not just what we say. There's a lot of times that I think people come to church on Sunday and then Monday kind of forget about what they learned on Sunday.
Yep.
And it happens, it's happened to me in the past, and you have to kind of recenter and kind of get back to the basics and refocus on what's important. I will say that when I do start to get off center, I can see it now, probably now that I'm older and wiser, a little easier than I did in the past, and it's maybe a little bit easier to get back on track.
I've heard it. There's a member, Steve Griffin. I think a lot of you guys know Steve Griffin, who goes to our church, and his analogy or his example of that is a plumb line. If you've got a plumb line, you can get a little bit off to the side of the plumb line on either side, but if you snap that line, it comes right back to the center again.
Sure. And
I think that's kind of what you're saying. That kind of resounds with you. So, Jerry, how about you?
Well, absolutely, Dave. I feel like that, yes, Christian values do still count. Unfortunately, there are not as many who espouse those as once did. Mm-hmm. But what we can do as Christian men, leaders, that we can always lead by example, and that we don't necessarily need to have someone just right on their coattails, but how we act, how we speak, people will notice that. And I met with a gentleman about a year or so ago, and he made mention. I don't know what I said in the conversation, but he said, "You're a believer, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am."
Something you said tripped him. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I don't know. So, yes, I fully agree with Matt and you that definitely these do count. And I know I've in the past gotten off one way or the other.
Yep.
And that is the one thing that maybe our spouses have a way of doing is kind of snapping as you say, the plumb line.
Exactly.
And get us back in line. But it's
well, particularly, that all usually just takes a question sometimes. What you said, is that what you really meant to say, or is that I'm a good one for always bursting out with something, and then I'll go, wow, I wonder how they took that. Did I say that the right way? Does that really represent what I believe or what I think? And I do that. So, Barrett, I got a question for you. So when you look at there's different places that we live out our lives. Obviously, our home, at work, just goofing around with the guys and that kind of stuff. Is there a particular place for you it's harder or more of a challenge to stick to Christian values?
Well, you switched the question up on me. I was ready to answer the first question, but you changed it.
You're going to find that works in this podcast is the way we work.
I think the place that it's most difficult is when you're alone.
Yeah.
Because your mind is in a million places.
Yeah.
And you tend to lose focus on your values and not just Christian values, but your values, your family, what's important in life. So absolutely, when you're alone, your mind wanders. You start to think about all the problems in the world. You start to think about all the problems at home, how you're going to fix them. What am I going to do? And instead of recentering, again, the plumb line you said comes back into play. We need to stay straight, center our focus around Jesus. And it's very difficult when you're alone because when you're around other people, you've got other men to hold you accountable, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's when.
Well, it depends what group you're in. So
very true.
I've got some buddies that they don't exactly hold me accountable. In fact, I may try to hold them accountable. But and to me, that's been one of my challenges is that it's real easy on Sunday morning. I mean, where everybody's together, everybody's kind of in the same tune and everything. But you get a bunch of guys watching a game or something, and the stories start coming out or jokes or whatever that aren't appropriate. And when I was 20, it was no big deal. Either participated or you didn't. And now it's almost like I get uncomfortable in that situation. Maybe that's a good thing if that happens. And look at that. But if you, I'll ask this one to Jerry, and if you guys had to make a list of values that are congruent with Christ's teachings, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you name a couple that are just important to you, kind of bedrock or with the way you think?
Sure. Honesty and integrity.
2 top ones right there. Yeah.
Others as well, but those would be the two that are top ones that I try to espouse to each day. And to say that I always do it, oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I'll ask Matt this because we got a couple of Aggies here between Jerry and Matt, and I'm a faux Aggie, so I funded a guy through A&M, but I really bought into the cult, when I was doing that. So I've got to ask, A&M has a set of core values which I think are outstanding.
Aggies will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate
right. Those that do right. And then if you walk into the MSC, the Memorial Student Center at A&M, over each doorway, there's a value. There's loyalty. There's you name it. There's 6 doors, I think, and 6 different values. And it's really, to me, that's a definite physical reminder of the way we should be living our lives, which is one of the things I love about the school. And but to me, that's kind of where I've been in several organizations, and we normally have to come up with a mission statement, and we have to come up with a set of core values. And I just go back to a lot of times the A&M core values, as well as the ones that we have at Trietsch, and translate those into a more of a secular thing, that may not be, radical love and all that kind of stuff, but it would be a little more, appropriate for a business setting, I guess. But so I was going to, I guess my question is it difficult to stay on that track? I'll let any of you join in on that.
Yeah, I think that's where it's important. Barrett talked about this fellowship and having an accountability group or a close group of friends that will hold you accountable and tell you if they think you're maybe not doing something the right way. A lot of my friends will tell me, they say, "Hey, Angry Matt came out there. You need to control Angry Matt."
Yeah,
and they know Angry Matt, and they don't like Angry Matt. I don't like Angry Matt. But I think that's the important thing, is to have an accountability group, a close group of guys that will hold you accountable.
For sure. And for some of us who have been on the walk to Emmaus and are members of accountability group, I will tell you that, yes, they will hold your feet to the fire.
That's one of the things I like about this particular church that we belong to is that there's a myriad of small groups. Mm-hmm. So there's certainly Emmaus reunion groups that are out there. There's a lot of folks that are involved in those. We have our other small groups within Trietsch that are deliberate, that we put people together, and sometimes just for a period of time, maybe a year to 18 months, and you get to really know other couples or other people really well, and then and that really builds an accountability, I think, from what I've seen. And what we do there.
Not only accountability, but it also is a great support for each one of us as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We've just lived that out. Doris lost her mom just before Christmas, and the people from church that have reached out has been phenomenal for us. And all different types of groups. I mean, I'm in the choir. There's that group. There's our Sunday school. There's 10 different groups of people that have really reached out to us and embraced us, and that helps you reinforce your values when you watch other people live out their values.
That it does,
and you understand that no one's perfect, and everyone's trying to do the best they can. I think, and I'll say this: when we first started in Trietsch, gosh, it's been almost 20 years ago now. I said we were backdoor believers. We came in the back door, went to church, went out the back door, and didn't say anything to anyone. Then I joined the men's softball team. Yeah. And that's what did it for me. And from there, I got involved with softball. I found out, hey, these are a group of guys pretty much just like me. We've all got our struggles. We're all trying to do the best we can. Yeah. And I've developed some lifelong friendships there. And then that just led to choir, to musicals, to teaching Sunday school classes, to one thing after another.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a softball team?
There used to be.
There used to be. Yeah, we got so good that they made us disband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we aged out.
That was it.
That's what some of us other ones are here for.
Yeah,
That's right.
There's too many orthopedic incidents. we had to slow things down a little bit. Oh man. So another question. I'm going to stick with this one too. So as a man of God, what values do you struggle the most to live into? Do you think?
Wow. Are you picking on me?
Well, I can see you better, so I'm just going to get you.
Well, I think it's just being completely transparent.
Yeah. And
just really taking off the robe and just saying, here I am, take me as I am. Mm-hmm. I've shared a lot of stories with some of the men at UMMoT and about myself, and we all have flaws. We're all broken. Yeah. We've all been through a lot of experiences, negative and positive. But for me, it's like, I'm going to give you a glimpse, right? But to show you the whole thing really scares me, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest part is.
I think just as men, that's tough. I mean, you just don't do that. I mean, I grew up, sports teams the whole time, and, just shake it off. You never show that you're hurt. You never show that, you just keep going, right?
Don't show weakness, right?
Yeah,
You're taught that.
Exactly. And to overcome that's one of the hardest things, I think, going. And to try to, and particularly when you start trying to apply your values to things, so you're going like, okay, the easy way is to, let's just go along with the crowd or whatever. The hard way is to say, nah, that's just not what I'm about. We don't do it that way. And I think having kids had a big impact on that. I don't know if, Jerry, when you had your kids, did.
Well, that did. We became a lot more regular as far as attending Sunday school, for example. Mm-hmm. We had always attended church, but, we were almost like what Matt was talking about. We'd come in and go out the back door and might have some interaction, but it was nothing to the extent of what we've experienced here over the last 20 plus years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of that's just the personality of a church too. Sometimes a church it's all about the service and everything, and it's not as much about the small groups or the individuals. And I think we've got a great balance at Trietsch. I think we've got programs for the whole group, and then we've got some really in-depth things particularly if you've got issues, if you've got a grief issue, if you've got an addiction issue and different struggles, we've got resources for all of that. So you brought up, Jerry, the top two things that you the honesty and integrity and that type of thing. Is there any particular one that you have that you struggle with?
You're asking me one of those questions that.
That's what we like about these podcasts.
Yeah,
this is like
that's for sure.
This is your life,
Yeah, this is your life. And by the way, this is like that pop quiz that there's no way you could study for it.
Yeah, Michael lied to us.
Oh yeah, well he does that to suck people in.
I know that.
After a few of these appear, it's going to be harder and harder to get people to come on board.
Yeah, well the thing about it, he says, well, you don't need to prepare anything.
No, not at all.
Just bring your. Oh, by the way, you can bring a bottle of water with you if you want to.
Yeah. See, you did that. That's a good job.
I did that. Well, so I would say that sometimes, at least myself, I tend to be not as outgoing and sometimes as I should, and maybe try to take things internally. So that would be the one thing that I struggle with. And but as you say, fortunately, we've got some good groups here. I'm glad that we are back where we can, meet as UMMoT now.
Yeah, meet in person.
And so that has really been beneficial there.
Yep, definitely so. Is there anything I'll throw out to you two guys, Matt and Barrett? Is there anything that's non-negotiable for you as a Christian value? You guys are looking at each other. All right, who's going to jump on this one?
I don't know how to answer that one right off the top of my head, but if I could answer the previous question, I think one of the things that's hardest for me, and it's one of our values, is the radical love. It's like, I'm selfish, I'm stubborn, I'm impatient, and to just show that compassion to everyone you come across.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of energy. And it's that intentional thought, that intentional behavior.
It is tough.
And even with it at home, I mean, it's like, I just need a minute. But sometimes you don't have a minute.
Well, and, particularly with your kids, sometimes your kids, you have to, you have to enforce something a half a dozen times before they actually start following it, right? And I've had that scenario where I'm like, okay, we've talked about this. We're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. We're not going to go there. Whatever the deal is. And we have two sons. My older son was usually like, you explain to him in very, open terms. This is why we're not doing it this way. And he's like, okay, I understand that. That's good. That's the one that went to A&M. Okay, so the younger one, totally different. I mean, you had to get it like 3 or 4 times around before he finally said, well, I guess they're not going to change their mind. I mean, this is the deal. So it's fun. It is definitely fun.
I'll expand a little on what Barrett was saying. For me, I think that the biggest thing that I struggle with, and it turns into a lot of other things, but pride.
Yeah.
And setting aside pride, and that's where then I get impatient.
Yep.
Or I get angry because I feel someone's wronged me, and they don't know that they've wronged me.
Yeah.
They don't care. But it's, this is me. You did this to me, and how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think pride is the biggest thing. One of the biggest things for me.
I'll kind of tag on to that a little bit too. Is there are times when you do know someone has wronged you, but being able to forgive that individual and be able to move forward is something that I have years ago struggled with, and now like, hey.
Yeah, that's almost like an acquired skill. I think it's something we really have to work on, and forgiveness.
And I know that some of the morning devotionals that we've been going through for the last, particularly for the last month, have address that and being able to say, look, is this worth getting all bent out of shape about? No, it is not. And so be able to just forgive that person, even if they, like Matt says, even if they didn't know that they had wronged you, but
Sure.
just do that and move on.
Yep. So this last question, I'm going to ask all three of you to answer this, but this is so there's men listening to this that maybe haven't gone down the road that we've been down, either due to age or just length of time they've been involved in a church or a church environment and all that. So if there's guys that are struggling really to consistently live into their values, what would be your advice to them? I'll start with you.
For me, what really centers me is just daily reading of the Bible.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
I mean, it's amazing how it focuses my attention when I do that in the morning. If that's the first thing I do, after I take the kids to school, I come back to my office, and if I sit down and read, that kind of sets the tone for the rest of my day.
Yeah.
And if I don't, it's chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, bring it on. I don't know what's going to happen. But if I set aside that 15 minutes, it's really not even that much time that it takes. I mean,
it's almost like working out. If you get up in the morning and work out, then you've
Absolutely.
got it done. If you wait till 6 at night, the chances of you getting there are really slim.
Slim and none.
Working out is good for your body. It gets your energy going. But to set aside some time for God and Jesus and the Bible, your spirit is filled for the rest of the day.
Yep. That's a great one.
Well, I'll have to tag on to that one too. Starting last year, began with a morning devotional and use the upper room, and then have had another devotional guide used in addition to that, and then like reading maybe one chapter or parts of chapter. And so now looking back, that was how 2021 unfolded, and like Barrett's saying, it really sets the positive tone for you for that day. But you miss doing it, and things kind of go, we're in a handcart.
Yep, definitely so. Matt, how about you?
Well, on top of the reading of the Bible and the devotionals, I think prayer is another important part. We talked about accountability groups. But I think the one piece of advice I'd give new Christians or young Christians would be that just because you become active in your church, you turn your life over to God, doesn't mean everything's going to go your way.
Yeah.
Satan's going to throw stuff at you left and right to try and make you waver from that path.
Well, and you may actually see things that you hadn't seen before.
Absolutely.
That are threats, or that are concerns. And I've been down that road myself, and I know others that. I mean, that's been one of the toughest things. It's like the more you know, the less you know, or the more you don't know. Maybe is the proper terminology. So.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, super. Well, guys, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure to dig into this, and hopefully one or more of you will be back for future unscripted and put you on the spot kind of interviews, which is always good. So
well, you could always email us a copy of the Cliff Notes or something just to prep us for it.
No, I don't want you prepared in any way or shape or form. That's the way it works. So there you have it. This is another episode of Men in Progress, and we hope that you were blessed by our discussion today, and hope you'll tune in the next time. I wanted to thank my brothers from Trietsch, Matt Heading, Jerry Jones, and Barrett Plyler for joining me, and to Alyssa Robinson and our church production team that really help us put this podcast together and make it real. This is a part of a Life Plus God podcast series that we do here at Trietsch. And as it says in Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. And that's really our whole purpose behind this podcast series, is really to get men to interact with each other and hopefully reach out to guys that may be not joining us for regular events and stuff like that, but do have time to listen to us on a podcast. And as we try to become better fathers, better husbands, better leaders, and overall just better men. So I'm Dave Casey, and we'll see you next time.
This episode of the Men in Progress podcast is sponsored by Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church, where our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're in or near Flower Mound, Texas on any Sunday morning, we would love to welcome you to any of the Trietsch services. Or you can follow our services anytime on our Facebook page or at tmumc.org.